Recently, I've been inspired by a new game I played called Lorne's Lure, where you're an android stuck in a megastructure looking to find a way out. And dude, just something about the architecture, along with that massive scale, I don't know bro, it just hits different. And well, that led me to a manga called Blame, that I'm gonna be honest, I haven't really read yet, but I'm just so inspired by it that I really want to try recreating this megastructure. But there is a problem. The biggest build I've ever created was probably this thing, meaning I have quite literally no experience with this scale of build, so it's time to step outside my comfort zone. So here it is, our blank world, of which we're going to create a really awesome mega structure. And well, doing it by hand would quite honestly take multiple years, so I'll introduce you to the lineup of tools we've got, starting with good old world edit. So this is going to easily allow me to set basically 2 points. I know you can't really see what I'm doing right now because there's no kind of point of reference, but I've just selected 2 points and I've basically just set the area between them to stone. And that is going to greatly help us build some absolutely massive walls and, you know, other kinds of things. The next mod that we have is axiom, which is this like last little hotbar slot that you see there. And I can change between multiple different tools here, like stack. For instance, if I wanted to, you know, scale this up as far as I wanted, I could just do that and then scroll. And I can even go out that way as well if I wanted to. I can just scroll that up and confirm. And there we go. We have an even bigger wall that, well, for some reason has scaled out that way as well. Axiom also allows us to go into this like editor mode where we can like, yeah, it's honestly, it's really crazy. We can like select stuff in here and yeah, do all kinds of stuff. I'm honestly not going to get into that right now. And then the final couple of mods that we have, of course, is Distant Horizons and my favorite shaders, Complementary. Distant Horizons is going to allow us to see really far in this build because yeah, this thing is going to be absolutely massive and without it, we're not going to be able to see very far. Okay, now here we are after a bunch of stacking and expanding. You can see this is the size of our wall now. This goes from absolute, you know, the bottom of the world all the way up to the build limit, and we've extended this quite far. And I mean, it doesn't really look that big from here, mainly because I'm flying at a super fast speed, but if we get closer, you can start to see the actual scale of this thing, dude. This is massive, and yeah, it's kind of all just hitting me right now how much work this is actually going to be. I'm gonna have to learn quite a few things to get this done. Holy crap, man. But yeah, so this wall I've decided is going to be that right side wall of our reference picture there. And there's quite a few details we need to add to it to get it looking right. To get that staggered inward sloping wall I wanted, I just figured it'd be easier to simply delete the whole thing and duplicate the first section I'd made until I reached the end. Then I started on creating these two things on the right side that look like big water holding silos of sorts, and I started on the legs building them out of copper blocks. I also connected them all together at the tops along with adding an arch design between the legs. I then started working on the main body of the silo, but wasn't very happy with the shape. Alright, so I have a bit of a trick up my sleeve to get the shape of the water tower thing on this right. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete some of the wall here and just kind of roughly stand like, I don't know, fucking here, I guess. And I'm going to use a little command with world edit called hsil, which is, you know, a hollow cylinder. I'm going to choose a block. I want the polished tough blocks. I think they're going to look quite nice with this. And then I'm just going to choose a random radius. I'm going to try like, I don't know, 22. Let's see how that goes. Oh, dude, that's actually so close. Okay, actually, the radius is not anywhere near big enough. Okay, that's still not quite right. We need to get a little bit bigger. Okay, just give me a moment. I'm gonna get this figured out real quick. Okay, there we go. I'm happy with that. Now we ended up having to go to frickin' 48. Yeah, so that's our first layer there. I'm gonna extend this up maybe 5 times, and then I'm actually going to expand this outwards. So following our reference, I just continued building up this water tower thing, changing the proportions at the bottom slightly. Once I was happy with the shape, I duplicated it to the right to get that second one all placed in. I also added these lines to them to follow the reference. Next up, I wanted to place in the left side wall so I could start working on some of the features over there. The process was fairly simple. I just used axiom to copy a chunk of the right side wall and moved it to the left, along with duplicating it a few times. I then moved down to this area to begin adding in all of the details, starting with these big arch designs. I duplicated this first one to the right and began working on the bottom of the first one that had a couple of arch designs. I duplicated that arch so we had 4 in total, as well as 6 of the top arch indent thingies. I then continued adding in the smaller details as seen in the reference, as well as starting on the bigger first arch on the left. This one had 3 holes at the bottom that I made sure to add in, as well as all of those line details you can see through the reference on the walls. After adding the line that runs around the first arch, I moved down to the area below that appears to have a sloped area that's just barely connected with a couple of pillars. It took a few tries to get the curve right at the end, and after I got it, I worked on thickening up the platform as well as adding in the details. And just for a frame of reference, since starting this left side wall, just this area has taken an hour in total, which, yeah, this whole project is gonna definitely take a while. Next, I just continued duplicating those indented arch designs across 11 times in total to perfect perfectly match the reference. Alright, and here is our mega structure so far. As you can see, frickin' distant horizons isn't really working properly. I don't know why it's still saying that this wall is here when it isn't. It's doing it over there too. Even after restarting my game and the world, it's pissing me off. But yeah, so I'm feeling pretty happy with the proportions of this area so far compared to the reference. I think this is looking really good. The only issue that I've noticed is that in the reference, it's kind of, I don't know, it's hard to tell if it's the FOV or if this whole wall is kind of curved, like it's meant to like kind of curve around like that and then go kind of, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's just the FOV of the camera that makes it look like that. So I don't really know if I should leave it like this or if I should kind of just have a general kind of slope to this entire wall, kind of pushing it that way. I don't know. I gotta think about it, I guess. But yeah, I think the next thing that I want to get started doing is some of those bridges that you can see. I think I want to first start with this one that is just above like the arch designs that I've added in. And I think I've actually already run into a bit of a problem, is that compared to the reference, which is like about here, all of this is very like far forward. This all needs to be kind of shifted back towards like around here, I reckon. So thanks to the Axiom mod, this was nice and easy to do. I basically just selected the opposing corners and shifted it all back using the hologram to get it looking bright. We did now have a big massive gap at the back, so I just shifted that back wall inwards to fill the gap up. All right, and that is looking good. That is looking a bit more proportional, although I feel like that is definitely way too close now. God, this is definitely the hardest part, is just getting the scale and everything right, which I feel like I just need to kind of, I don't know, it's not going to be perfect, so probably shouldn't dwell on that too much, you know? I didn't even realize my FOV has been down this whole time. This sensor scale just throws everything off so much. But yeah, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start on this bridge that's going to go from here all the way over to the other side. So yeah, let's get started. All right, so first off, I got the height of the bridge figured out, and then used the HSIL command again to get a circle at the right size. I then used the editor mode in Axiom to rotate it the right way, along with positioning it where I wanted. Next up, I worked on filling in the big gap between the top of the bridge and the arch, along with duplicating it to the other side and making the bridge a bit thicker. Now it was time to get those arch designs carved into the bridge. I made sure to get the height, position, and width all looking good, and added 3 in total on the left side, and then added 2 on the right side over here. To finish it off, I thickened the bridge slightly and added those arches on the back side. Continuing on to the next bridge that's situated in between the big arch designs, I first built up the main body of the bridge and then worked on adding in the arch designs using the same technique from earlier. After converting all the gold blocks to stone and filling in the gaps, I moved on to the interesting part of this bridge, which is that it kind of continues down and underneath the left side wall with this weird section that you can see on the reference. So I copied the same arches from before and positioned them to where I felt looked good, and continued building out this weird support system thing, which honestly does look pretty cool. The next bridge was very quick and easy to make as it had no arches or anything, it just had a bit of a fatter section on the right side. And for the final bridge for now, which is kind of hard to see in the reference, it was pretty easy, so it's all done. Alright, so pretty much just because I can't be bothered like showing this in editing, I'm just going to show you with in a very professional way using this old pointer finger right here. So you can see at this back wall, see how it's like, it looks like it's flat here, like that's a flat kind of wall. And then from this line down to here, it's like a cylinder, so it's like one of these, you know what I'm saying? It's like one of those sticking out here, and it looks like that cylinder kind of continues down with these like arches, and you can see here it's like broken. You can see it's kind of, it looks like the cylinder used to kind of run all the way down, but it's kind of, that chunk there has broken off and fallen like, I don't know, down yonder or something. And yeah, so I think that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, I think I'm gonna get back to it. We'll start the bloody time lapse right now, okay? The first thing I did was take a chunk out of the wall towards the top, along with getting that cylinder shape created with the HSIL command. I also moved the whole wall back a bit too. I then got to filling in the cylinder shape along with stacking it down to get the entire cylinder created. Now back towards the top of the back wall, there were multiple arches carved out of the wall, so I just worked on getting those added in to the best of my ability. To get it done a bit quicker, I also copied existing arches and stretched them out a bit too. After filling in the gaps, I then added some more gaps, following the reference very closely. Down at the bottom left quadrant of the back wall, I started carving out a similar shape to the reference there, just to the left of those really tall arches at the bottom. Speaking of really tall arches, I first used the erase tool to take a massive chunk out of the wall and simply added an arch design back in along the top. With the first one done, I simply copied it to the next one and used the move tool to position the arch blocks correctly. I then made them a bit taller, added black concrete, and finished up with the line details. Alright, so for the last step of this back wall, there's just such an awesome tool that I have to show you in Axiom. So you can see in the reference there, at the very bottom, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like on an angle, the wall. So right now what we have isn't right. There's an awesome tool in the Axiom editor called the path tool. So we can start our path like there, and then we can choose another point over yonder. And that's basically, look at how cool that is. That just makes a straight line going all the way over. And the best part about this is right now that looks way too steep. So I can easily just move this down to like exactly where I think it should be. Because honestly, it's such a like niche tool, but it's so helpful for me in this instance. So you can just press enter, and there we go. We have our line completely filled in. Now, one thing I do want to know is there's got to be an easier way to fill in like these big gaps. Actually, I think there's a flood fill tool or something. Where is it? Flood fill. Oh my God. This whole time. Oh my God. This whole time I've been manually filling in like these circles and shit like this. Filling in that, I could have just used this flood fill tool that whole fucking time. You're actually kidding me. Well, moving on. Yeah, so this is obviously a bit thin at the moment. So there's another really cool tool with Axiom called... Go on, out you get. Daddy's recording. Out you get. There's a really cool tool called the extrude tool, and I can simply just right click on this face here to extrude basically everything here up a little bit. Although it does look like there's like a secondary little lip in there, so I might just do another bit of the path tool here. And there we go. We've pretty much completed that whole bottom area there. Dude, that is looking super awesome when the lighting actually works properly. Now with this area of the wall here, it does look like it kind of is on an angle like this, but it actually goes maybe out that way. So I think I'm gonna do that same thing with the path tool here. And now what we can do to easily stack this up is we can get the stack tool, and we'll select all the way back here at this one as well, and then we can just start scrolling up to create our wall. And there we go. There's our back kind of diagonal wall. So this is all gonna look normal from up here at this like reference image point. You can see, just disregard this freaking annoying crap here, and we're gonna have to add like a bunch of lines and all the details on it from the reference picture. So I think I'm gonna do that real quick right now. I'm not gonna bother with a freaking time lapse because that shit's honestly just boring. I'm just cutting lines into the wall, and then we'll get started on something a bit more interesting. All right, so there is all of our line work done. You can see it a little bit better there. I also went ahead and just added all of the lines into this side of the wall and this wall as well. I also added like some little entrances into, that one needs to be fixed up a little bit, but also added these little entrances into each one of our bridges here. Well, except for that one, we're going to get to that. And now something that was pissing me off is, yeah, there you can see the actual cutoff of where it starts rendering in the distant horizons chunks. And you can tell it looks like crap, and like all of this isn't working. So I got a mod called the Bobby mod, which yeah, basically lets you change your render distance from the max of 32, and I can bump this bad boy up to like freaking something ridiculous. Like let's just do double 64, and now you can see I can render all the way down there without the distant horizons chunks loading in. So that is going to make my life a whole lot easier, and it should make the replay mod time lapses look a lot better as well, hopefully. But yeah, so that's another mod I've added. Very helpful. I'm probably going to be using this mod forever because my PC can kind of handle rendering that many chunks. Well, I hope in the overworld and stuff. But now what I'm going to get working on is this top portion here. So you can see in the reference part, pretty much from this part of the bridge here, we have like all of these kind of arches and like, I don't know, it looks like kind of houses. And then also back up over this way, there's a bunch of like these stacked houses with these big archways, and it kind of goes all the way down there. So this is probably going to be the hardest and most time consuming part of this entire project. And I'm going to get that done in in a super quick time lapse starting right now. So first up, I took a giant chunk out of the wall here so we'd be able to add in all the buildings. I then made a circle with world edit and placed it down along with stacking it up to make the first house. I built up the roof and carved in some arches closely following the reference, and then got to creating these big supports that run above this house. With that done, I then simply continued adding the house things that are stacked on top of this first one. I added the final area right at the top and then finished off the rest of the wall with the details seen in the reference. And all of that there just basically took an entire hour. It doesn't look like much, but man, trying to just get all the scale and the proportions right to the reference is very hard and time consuming. But I'm actually really happy with how this is turning out so far. But yeah, we still have a lot of work to do over on this left side here. So let's stop wasting time and continue building. All right, so if you're getting a bit lost, we just started with this little arch right here. And yeah, I don't blame you if you can't tell what I'm building in the reference, because this whole area is a jumbled mess that was an absolute pain in the ass to build. But in the end, this area actually turned out pretty accurate to the reference, which I'm very proud of. Moving further along the wall, it was time to create all of these arched areas, and I ended up messing up the sizes pretty bad, so I had to redo it a few times. After getting the first arch to a more accurate size, I duplicated it down 5 times and replaced the gold blocks with air. The final 6th arch was a bit taller, so I had to do some adjusting to get that one looking good. It also had a cool looking diagonal slope in front of it too, so I made sure to add that in as accurately as possible. Now it was time to get all of those entrances and windows throughout all the arches. I don't actually know if that's what they are, but I'm just gonna say it is. And now for the final step of this section, I had to add in all of the details and chunks taken out of the walls, and I'm pretty proud with how accurate I was able to get all of this to the reference. Oh, alright, so 1.5 hours later, here is the progress of our megastructure. It is coming along so nice, man. I'm super proud of this area over here. Also, all of this area, all of these like individual little scratches in the walls and everything is just like as accurate as I could freaking get it, man. And so that pretty much leaves us with this back left kind of area of this left side wall, which honestly does not have a lot of features at all. It is mainly just more of that, like these little lines and stuff everywhere. And then the final thing that we have is the massive bridge. Honestly, I'm not sure if it's bigger than this existing bridge here, because it does look like it has a pretty similar shape to that one. So honestly, we might even just be able to freaking duplicate this one and move it down. Let me just get the copy tool there, and then we can just middle click down here to place it. So it looks like the bridge would probably be about there if we're lining up the reference. It is as good as I can get it, so I'm pretty happy with that. We're gonna have to adjust these little arch things here, but I'll do that in the time lapse as well. So yeah, we're going to now start on the final time lapse, which is just completing this entire left side wall and finishing up with this bridge. So let's get to it. All right, so firstly I worked on this bridge, extending the arches to be a bit larger to better match the reference. After completely filling it in, I moved straight on to adding the inner arches within the arch, quite literally archception. And with that half of the bridge done, I simply duplicated it and flipped it to the other side to get our completed bridge. I then added the absolutely massive entrance that the bridge leads to, along with starting all of the line work, holes, and gaps in the walls. Honestly, it's kind of hard to tell what these are actually meant to be, whether they're different colored sections of the wall or just actual chunks taken out of the wall, and I ended up just going with the latter. Finishing up, there are a couple of massive arches down at the bottom, along with some final details. Alright, and well, there we have it. That is the completed megastructure. And dude, this is actually the first time I'm just kind of walking around on this, and the sense of scale is absolutely nuts. Like, I'm sprinting at full speed here, and like, it feels like we're not even moving. This thing is that massive. It's just insane. And so if you want to explore this build for yourself and just kind of check it out, the download will be available over on my Patreon, so be sure to check that out if you're interested. Also, this is a pretty different kind of video that I've done in quite a while, so be sure to let me know in the comments what you thought of this video. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.